Hi, my name is Nate Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of GLCS, and this is the Driving Forward podcast. Once again, remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Follow GLCS and LinkedIn for shows, summits, and various events. We have a great show today. We have Chris Thomas on. He's a driver for an owner operator, actually, a driver for Autumn Transport. He runs a pneumatic truck over the road. We met Chris at the F3 in Chattanooga a few weeks ago. Really excited to talk about him, about his life on the road and his career and how he got into trucking. A couple quick updates on what we're up to right now. December 16th, GLCS will be participating in wreaths across America. We'll be placing wreaths at the Fort Snelling Cemetery in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. If you wish to participate, it's wreathsacrossamerica.org. I know they're still looking for a lot of volunteers to help place wreaths at really any military cemetery throughout North America. Also, if you're in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and you want to participate and you're not sure how to sign up or just want to come and participate with us, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to bring more people. You can reach out to us at drivingforward@glcs.net. Also coming up, Broker Carrier Summit. That's April 22nd through the 24th in Kansas City. We just had a great planning session here this week. The last day for a 20% discount is today. So brokercarriersummit.com. Also be sure to follow the Broker Carrier Summit on LinkedIn. To sign up, go to www.brokercarriersummit.com. We have a great set of speakers that we're lining up for that event. We're currently, the last event had 227 attendees, a great breakdown of brokers and carriers. I think it was 40% brokers, 45% carriers, and the remainder was a group of different technology solutions and consultants within the industry. The next event we're targeting 1,000 people, and I think we may achieve it. So Trey Griggs and Robert Bain have both committed their hair again. Trey is going to shave his head. Robert's going to shave his beard if we hit a certain target. I think it's 750 people. So once again, brokercarriersummit.com, April 22nd through the 24th in Kansas City, and today is the last day of the 20% discount. So with that being said, extremely excited to bring on Chris Thomas. If we can bring Chris Thomas out, please.
Your daddy taught you, maybe your mom sips them years. No matter what got you on this ride, damn sure glad you're here.
Hey, Chris,
Hello.
welcome.
Hello, Nate. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you having here, and that intro music is interesting. It's by a gentleman called Eric Daly, and the song's called "Big Truck Life." So it's a great song about trucking, and if you haven't heard it, I suggest everybody check it out. It's a great song.
Yeah, there's the line in there. The first time behind the wheel. Every truck driver can probably remember their first time behind the wheel of a big truck. I guess I had several of them, whether it was a fire truck or the first time I ever drove one was probably a tanker that we were getting ready to buy, and I took up to Canton, Ohio, and I probably shouldn't even been driving it. I had no license, but volunteer firefighters, you can just kind of jump out and go in it. So I was out there shifting gears like a pro, taking that thing for a test drive.
I remember my first time behind the wheel. I got behind the wheel and my foot was up on the clutch and the legs started bouncing. I'm sure if you haven't heard that expression, but the leg starts bouncing on the clutch, this is many, many years ago, but you start getting a little freaked out behind the big piece of equipment. So, but that first time behind the wheel, everybody's got their memory behind it. So I can definitely relate. So really appreciate you having on. met you at F3. Really kind of knew you were coming to F3. I have to admit, I was kind of browsing through all the people, and I saw owner operator Autumn Transport, and I said, hey, I know people from Autumn Transport. So I reached out to my friend Josh Rieger at Autumn Transport and said, hey, you have a guy going to Autumn Transport. Do you know him? And so that I kind of knew you were going to be there, and I was really glad that we were able to connect. So what did you think of F3? I guess before we get into who you are, where you came from, what was your take of that event?
Sure. So yeah, the Future of Freight Festival, hosted by Freight Waves, it was awesome. There's just no way to put it other than that. For a guy that sits in behind a wheel every day, just getting to get there and see, kind of that backside of the industry, what everybody's doing, and logistics and stuff, and the keynote conferences, the networking opportunities, just talking to people. Everybody has different ideas and different problems and trying to figure out solutions. And it was just a good time. I mean, the after parties, hanging out with my crew, the Please Advise group, which is Reed Loosed a lot. And, all my friends, Gord, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that, part of an elite.
I got the big head, so it doesn't fit.
Yeah. So, it kind of all started, back at Matt's this year. We had a Twitter meetup, with Reed, myself, Gord McGill, Mike Lombard, and Justin Martin of Freight Waves. And we were all and also I want to throw out Taylor Barker there too. Taylor Built on Twitter. We were all there hanging out Matt's, and just, Reed had this Discord server, and Reed was wearing this Please Advise hat, the first edition, he just bought it with a Post-it note on there. And, my story is I told him to make that hat. He probably was already thinking about making it, but I was like, you make that hat and I'll buy one. And, this is it right here. This is probably one of 12 OG hats that he made, the first shipment. So glad to support Reed and everything that all the guys in the Discord channel are doing. We come together there and we talk about issues, but everybody's kind of doing their own thing. I've called it everything from a cult of freight to a incubator to a think tank, and my favorite is probably Justin Martin's the smoke-filled back room of the supply chain. So it's just a great place to get on there and kind of cut loose and talk about whatever it is, just kind of hang out. And Reed has done a great job in putting together these little online events within the arena. We've listened to several different people within the logistics industry, from Ross Huntsman, then also John Conrad of G Captain, and then Timothy Dooner and Craig Fuller have all been on in the arena, which is a great platform to get in and listen to him and Reed talk and just kind of go down a rabbit hole wherever it might lead to. So
I don't spend enough time there. It's on my list of things to do. Typically those Discords events are in the evening, which for you guys that drive, that's perfect time for you. And I understand that. I definitely want to start being more of a part of that crew. I think, from my point of view, I've called it a revolution. So I've called it a revolution a couple of different times now, in larger groups of people, including to Reed and Craig and a few other people. But it's really a different way to bring disparate groups of the industry together in a way that we haven't before, and taking drivers and the driving community and bring them more forward with different areas of the industry that they should be interacting with, and kind of bringing that office community. I mean, really, you're in your office and we're in our office. We're all remote now anyway. So it's a matter of us all working together, and it's creating this new revolution that kind of builds this closer knit community. And I think it's definitely a seed of where the industry can go. So I admire it a lot more than I can probably put words to it. So
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's just kind of been I'm just a trucker. I've been doing this for 18 years now over the road. And it's kind of a new thing for me. I'm tech savvy enough to get on there and figure out what's going on, but there's a lot of younger guys in there than me that it's kind of like a boost of energy to you. You're getting all these new ideas, and it's kind of an infectious, contagious thing that you just want to be a part of. And it's just a great place to be. The Freight X community on Twitter right now, or X.com, is probably, if you're not there and you're in logistics and transportation, you're missing out, because that's where the party's at. You know, there's people there who are seriously doing business, but at the same time, we're not serious people. We're all just humans. And that's the big part, is just being a human, being a good person, finding other good people to work with, and building trust, in a new modern sense, because a lot of that's been lost probably in the last, 15 to 20 years. It just seems like people don't have the same kind of close relationships that they should have. And, using technology to overcome a lot of this divide is a good way to go for any organization, really.
I agree completely, and you're absolutely right. I think the relationships are different now than what they used to be, and for whatever particular reason, they've changed from what they once were. So everything used to center around a relationship. We had people in offices before. We had people, drivers coming in and out, and we would build long-term relationships with them. I still have many drivers that used to work for me that I stay in contact with. They're Facebook friends. We keep it. I haven't run trucks in well over a decade, but I still stay in contact with guys that's worked for me over the years, and those are very close relationships to me. They're meaningful, but it's a little different now, and with technology, you can build that to where it's almost, it is just a very tight knit team, and so I think you guys are onto something here. And like I say, it's a revolution. It's something admirable. So I'm curious to see where else it goes. I know a lot of it's just bootstrapping and changing and just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And I continue wearing my hat, but Reed needs to make bigger hats. So
Bigger hats.
yeah,
Yeah.
my hat's a little too
We
small.
need to make
So
one big enough for Nate Johnson. If we can make one
yes,
small
sir.
enough for Kevin Rutherford, we can make one big enough for Nate Johnson, right?
Yes, sir. That's exactly it. So circling around, kind of the intent of this show, at least part of the intent of this show, is to get your whole story. So, you've been in the industry 18 years. Really want to know how you got into trucking, how you got behind the wheel, and sort of bring us up to where you are now. So, what kind of got you into driving? You'd mentioned your first time behind the wheel was um, as a fireman, or I think that's what I picked up on before. But can you kind of give us the story on how you got into transportation?
Yeah. So honestly, my ex-wife. That's the simplest answer. I was working as a 911 operator for Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport Police Department. So I was kind of over fire dispatch for the airport, and security, and the police dispatch and ambulance dispatch within the airport. I was also at the same time firefighter, EMT volunteer, and part-time EMT for the Burlington Fire Protection District, Northern Kentucky. And I was selling computers for Dell, and I was working on the side. So I'm a little bit of a workaholic. So I think one day, my wife at the time must got tired of me being gone to work all the time. So she comes home with a brochure and says, "Hey, we could go see the country," which, I did love traveling at the time. We always loved to go places. So she's like, "Hey, we could go see the country and make money and do trucking." And, at the time I was young and we didn't have kids. And I was like, well, sure, why not? Looked into it, and we jumped into it and went to Schneider. That was, back in the day, you go to Schneider, you put your year in, they pay for your school. And we did that for 1 year there with Schneider. Got the Excellent Service Award, the jacket that everybody was envious of with all the patches on it. Unfortunately, I'm just going to call them out. Third shift Green Bay cannot keep drivers. That's number one problem there. That if they want to talk about driver turnover, is you get into second and third shift dispatch and they change your entire plan every night. It becomes a very stressful situation.
No, understood. Yeah, third shift is rough. So, how long were you with Schneider for then?
13 months, and then
13 months.
going across 212 there one night, coming from Belle Fourche, South Dakota, over to Montana there, across the reservation, and got passed by this gal in an interstate distributor truck. And that was the next company we went to. I ended up talking to her on the CB, something that's kind of went by the wayside for a better part of a couple hours across through there. We're just kind of running in the middle of the night, because I often done nighttime driving. And it was a good chat, and she was telling us about interstate distributors. So next thing you know, we're on an airplane out to Tacoma. Of course, interstate ain't in existence any. They got bought out by Heartland Express.
Right.
But
Right.
they were a good company for the time being there. And while we were there, we just kept getting better opportunities, right? How you should. So we were loading up in Vegas one time, and run into this couple who were loading up, and they were with FedEx Custom Critical. So next thing you know, we were on the next path, and we were at FedEx Custom Critical after being at Interstate for about 9 months. We spent the next 2.5 years at FedEx Custom Critical, and got into the white glove division, hauling all sorts of stuff, high value freight, government freight, explosives, radioactive. We pretty much done anything that they offered to haul.
With FedEx Custom Critical, were you doing Class 8 or were you doing the straight truck work?
Yeah, no, it was a Class 8 expedite, so it was an ER
Okay.
unit. For anybody that would know, those it was the E units. If you see the E with the numbering system, then the ER meant you were part of white glove division, which was the specialized temperature, special handling freight. And I know I was actually contracted through a much older contractor, had been with Roberts Express, and I learned a lot from him, just about the industry, the time that I worked for him. And it was just a very cool time, a very, very cool stuff I got to haul. I got to haul a lot of things that most truckers, will never get to haul, from, dinosaur bones to $150 million pieces of artwork. So it was a very good experience, very good learning experience, learning how to deal with, very special clients, talking, not talking about what you have on your load, which I kind of still do to this day, just out of habit. I don't really discuss what I'm doing or where I'm going too much. But it was a good time. And of course, all things come to an end. The whole the ex-wife is part of that equation here. So I actually the recession hit. So just like everybody else, we went from probably, I think the truck grossed a little over $480,000 in 2008, and we dropped down to like 200,000 the next year in 2009, and
Oof.
worked more for it. So it was a big adjustment. And she got off the road, and I went to Autumn Transport. And during that time, we just kind of fell apart, not being on the truck together. We're just kind of young, and went our separate ways. But that's kind of the story of how I got into trucking. And then joined with Autumn Transport in 2010. I actually bought my first truck after I'd left the 1099 position I was with FedEx. I bought a truck and leased on for a while with FedEx, but it just wasn't the same. Kind of starting as a new hire all over again. I didn't have the connections or I guess the experience to get some of the same lanes that we were doing. So anyway, come to Autumn Transport and started in pneumatics with zero experience of how to do pneumatics. Had to bootstrap everything and learn everything from old guys as quick as possible. And I guess I did okay, because they still have me here.
Right. Right. Yep. And it's been, you said 2010, so 13 years.
Yeah, 13
Wow.
years. It would be
Yep.
consecutive, but I left for two months in 2013 and went and pulled RGN freight, which was something I just always wanted to do. And it was actually a really nice a company, Cut Specialized in Kentucky. It just didn't work out for me at the time. I got a little nervous about the money, and I come back to Autumn, which has always just been really fantastic for operating here.
Great. Well, Autumn's a great company. So, so running pneumatic, where do you typically, you kind of operate all in the same area, or are you
Yeah,
everywhere? I mean, I've been paying more attention to you on Twitter lately, but haven't got the idea of entirely where you operate. So where do you
sure.
typically run?
I mean, 90% of the time I'm east of the Rockies. So, pretty much the Midwest, all the way up to Northeast, Southeast. That's kind of the main area. I don't go to Texas a whole lot. We have, some dedicated accounts across the country, but, generally we're a 48 state carrier. And also we run into Canada, which I do run into Canada quite a bit during the year. And no, I just go all over. Sometimes I get onto a dedicated gig and I'll not stay. I stayed on one dedicated account for a couple of years, mostly there, just running in the coal power plants over around the Ohio Valley in Pennsylvania, which was just a great time in my life to have that opportunity. And I've tried out a few other dedicated, but I'm kind of a road warrior. As I say, there's a beauty into America, and part of the benefit of being an over the road trucker is getting to see the entire country, in all of its different stages and growth and decline. And it's a great time, any time, in my opinion, is to be a good time to just be traveling all over our beautiful country.
No, I agree to that. It's something I miss. So I always enjoy driving. I still love road trips. I think I've said that on a previous podcast. It's to this day I still miss driving. So if I didn't have um different path, different time, but I drove for quite a bit of my life, and it's something I still have a passion for. And um everything that I typically do, I'm looking at how our drivers. Actually, I was just on a call previous to the podcast talking about drivers and how to enhance that type of role. But the experience and drive, I like driving the West Coast, so I always was, West is best. And just waking up in the mountains, getting that fog and the sunlight in the morning and whatnot. There's just nothing better than that. And hearing the trucks fire up, of course, is a little different now with APUs, but um, there's just that morning phase of the day that always sits with me. And you know there's something to be said about driving, so I envy it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for those who've never been to the Pacific Northwest and woke up at a quiet rest area and just take a walk over into the woods there a little bit, and you can just go in and just there's definitely a different feeling about driving on the West Coast. Sometimes I miss it. I'm not sure that I'm ready to take on the emissions debacle yet as
Yeah.
a single truck owner operator. I have a lot of two-way advice on that street, and I'm not sure which path I want to follow. What's been working for me. I've been in the same truck now for, I've been in this truck for 10 years, and then that's a rare thing. Most guys don't stay in one truck for that long, but here I am, uh, still going, and may get out of it one day, may not. I'm not really sure yet.
Yeah, so speaking of that, I have a picture that you put up, I think yesterday, of your truck here. So I'm going to share my screen once it cooperates. Um, so this should be, there we go. So that's your truck, right?
Yep, that's it. That's Claudette. Every
Claudette.
every every guy should own or gal should name their truck. I found out that the trucks seem to do a little bit better if you call them a female name. So there's
Fair
definitely
enough.
maybe a superstition to that you should pay attention to. My first two trucks, Clyde and Barney, they were definitely learning experiences. But no, I've had that truck since 2013. It's a 2000 Freightliner Classic XL, 262-inch wheelbase. I got the Eaton 404 rears, 355s. I got 10-speed transmission Eaton, and I got a red top Cummins 525 Select Plus M14. So there's the
Yeah, I
spec
saw
for you.
saw the picture of the Covens the other day, and it's giving you some fits right now. So
Yeah, well, I was stressing out, and I heard a little chirp, and then I seen the oil, and I started assuming the worst. I was like, oh man, I've got a head gasket going. I'm like, and of course that goes to, well, why did the head gasket go? What's going on once you pull in there? But I cleaned it up a few times. I think would dodge the bullet. I think it's just the Jake box leaking, and just particularly the way it's running down makes it look worse than it honestly is. So we're living to fight another day. But you know, that's being an owner operator. You just never know what you're going to wake up to in the morning.
Right.
It's every day. I mean, you know, yeah, you make really good money, don't get me wrong, but you can also spend a lot of that money really quick, and you have to be ready for those kind of challenges at any given time.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so what advice would you give owner operators today? Let's say there's a lot of owner operators that are out there. A lot of people came into the industry through COVID. Maybe they were company drivers and they went out and bought a truck, and they're running under their own authority right now. And some of them are flipping over uh, to companies. Some of them are still running under their own authority. But what kind of advice would you give owner operators that are out there today? Just in general.
Sure. You know, I kind of bought my first truck after getting out of the lease purchase in 2009, right at the bottom, but kind of the bottom of the equipment market. So, you know, it was still a struggle having a cheaper truck. You know, I've never spent more than $30,000 at one given time on a piece of equipment. You know, I've spent more than that during the running of a year, but you know, at one shot, I've never spent that. So you had a lot of guys going out and buying equipment, maybe their first time buying equipment, you know, at 150, 175, $225,000 for a truck. And I hate to say it, the hard truth is you bought it at the top of the market. You were in the gold rush. I mean, that's basically what the trucking industry just experienced. It was definitely my first experience in 18 years of it, of experiencing such a gold rush where everybody's coming in and they're just grabbing everything they can, and they're getting equipment with that idea, you know, maybe no long-term plans to sustain what happens when the market comes back down. So if you look at the trucking market, it's no different than any other cyclical economic market. It goes up, it goes down, and we're probably in one of the worst downs right now. And you know, a lot of people can say what they want to, but it's obviously because there's too many trucks right now on the market, not enough freight to be hauling, and that's only going to get worse over the next probably 12 to 18 months as more equipment keeps coming online. You know, people who were making plans last year are just now starting to get their equipment this year, you know. And you know, I don't think we've seen a bottom to this market yet. I don't think the floor is in yet. And I hate to say that. I would like to say that it's the other way around. I might be wrong, but I just got this gut feeling from what I'm seeing, you know, when all this new expanded manufacturing capacity gets built, you know, people are going to have money to put in those orders, these factories, to get all this stuff going again. And it's going to take some time to shake out. So, you know, my advice right now is just the advice I've gotten from years of listening to the guys who are in the industry. And that's, you know, watch your costs, you know, slow down. You don't have to be going so fast. Anything that you can do to cut your costs. Don't idle your truck. You know, I'm sitting right here right now. It's a sunny day. It's not too bad outside. Everybody around me is idling. You know, that's a cost of right now probably anywhere from $7 to $9 an hour. So it really adds up when you start looking at numbers that way. And you know, that's the big thing, is you just really have to know your numbers. If you're in a sinking situation, you need to find maybe a partner carrier to get with that has some good contracts and has some freight, and maybe take your mind off of trying to do everything right now, because it's really stressful, you know, one way to own a truck, but then it's even more stressful when you're trying to keep that truck profitable all by yourself. And you know, I see that a lot. And you know, that's what I done. I come to Autumn Transport, and at the time they had this advertisement they were running in one of the ad papers that said they were recession proof freight. And you know, I believe that. You know, we have a really good program here, a really good team that works really hard to keep us all moving. And in 13 years, on one hand, I can count the number of times that I didn't know what I was doing after I got empty. So there's a lot of things to do. You know, just like I said, watch your financials, cut back on your costs. You know, look for new opportunities, partnerships, and you know, just keep your mind right. You know, there's going to be a lot of setting. There's going to be a lot of frustration, and you can choose to use that energy how you want to. You know, and don't use it negatively. Try to build out of it. Try to improve yourself, because you know, the time will turn around, and you know, if you can stick through it, you'll do even better the next go at it.
No, those are wise words, Chris. I couldn't have said that better myself. I always tell, you hear a lot of talk in the industry about bad freight and that there's not a lot of freight to be hauled, that the rates are bad, et cetera, et cetera. As an owner operator in your type of role, it doesn't matter if there's good freight or bad freight. You're working for a carrier, and it's your job to control your costs. You're under a pay plan, I assume, and maybe your percentage, maybe you're not, but you have direct control over your spend on your maintenance, on your fuel. Your largest expense is likely your fuel, and what you can do to control those costs is your job. I mean, that's what makes you and impacts your bottom dollar. So, and you answered that exactly how I would have answered it too. So I think that's a solid answer, man. Um that was perfect. So I appreciate that one. uh what what do you enjoy the most about being on the road today? You continue, 18 years on the road, and you're continuing strong. You seem passionate about it. You're all over social media here these days. What do you enjoy the most about it these days? Obviously, it's probably different than when you first got in it.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate where I'm at just as a career. Um, you know, I don't want to get out of it. I'm not ready to quit. I'm not ready to retire. So I think if you're in a job and that's your attitude towards it and you love it, you need to hold on to that. And just like we were talking about, just waking up in the morning and seeing the sunrise, or driving along, yesterday in the driftless region of Wisconsin there, which is, southwestern Wisconsin, and just, you're going through cornfields, snow's covering the fields, migrating flocks of whooping geese out there. There's a beauty to it. And you just got to be patient, and you got to accept the fact that the trucking is a job, but it's also a lifestyle. It's a culture, and it's a mindset. Every day we get out there and we think about a billion different things while we're driving, but at the base end of the day, it's getting to the customer, or getting your job done is the most important thing. That's what keeps food on the table. So, for me, just having the opportunity to provide for my family, being from Eastern Kentucky, there's not a lot of opportunity for a guy without a college education. And unfortunately, I just wasn't ready to go to college when I was that age. So I just kind of got into working. And, to me, that's just it, is you just get up every day, and you think about the things that you got to be happy for, and kind of, the problems you can deal with them, but don't let them, you know, take over. If you find yourself just in a negative mood all the time, you got to change it up. You got to change your mindset, get out, maybe get some exercise, maybe change your diet a little bit. You got to just talk to somebody. You've got to keep a good positive mindset, because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Um, you know, you're not going to get rich driving a single truck, but you can have a really good life and a really good experience. And that's where I'm at. I'm just 18 years into it, and I can sit here and easily see myself doing this another 30, 40 years with no problems.
That's great. That's inspiring to hear. So you talked about family a little bit. Tell me, I mean, I saw your Twitter post or a post from you. I think you went to see Napoleon with I assume that was your children. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your family.
Yeah, so yeah, my wife Miranda, she's a teacher in Eastern Kentucky, second grade. She's also 18 years into her profession, uh, which is it's a very challenging field. If you think truckers think they have hard, try going and managing a classroom of 30 kids,
Right.
with all different raising, at home. So I wouldn't want to do it, but I get to hear all about it. And I got my two-step boys, Jake and Cole. I've been around them since, they were 2 and 3. And then Harlan is 9. And, you know, she's a boy mom. We got a house full of farts and jokes and everything else. So just It's good to see them all growing up and progressing, and I've always heard that you can't have a family when you're on the road. You can. It's just a lot of hard work, and you have to
Yeah.
be able to communicate. And when it's time to go home, it's time to go home. Sometimes that's plain to see, and she's telling you, and sometimes you just kind of got to read the cards and say, hey, maybe I need to go home for this situation.
Sure. No, I hear you there. Speaking about home time, about how often are you out on the road?
I
How long do
typically
you
go
stay out?
Yeah, I typically go out and intend to stay out, at least 3 weeks. Sometimes the route gets me through home a little bit quicker, or, sometimes there's an opportunity comes up and maybe I'll stay out a little longer, if it pads the revenue. It's really all about how much cash do I need to overcome some circumstances. I've kind of been in that cycle of more maintenance than I wanted to spend for the last year. And here about 3 or 4 months ago, it finally seemed to taper off, and I'm starting to get back on top of things, and that just goes back to, you just got to always be prepared, because you don't know when that truck's going to be down. You don't know how long it's going to be down. You always got to have cash. You should have probably some credit. You should have everything that you can use, to your advantage to overcome these situations, because they'll come. And sometimes you think I'm all right, I've got enough, but I found over and over again that when you have just enough, you're going to need more. So just I'm always saving, and I'm always trying to build my business credit as well, which that's another thing that owner operators should do. Day one is you should set your business up. So many guys stay as a sole proprietor, and that kind of puts you at a disadvantage from a credit standpoint when you're trying to establish that business credit. So if you're doing things right and you're making a pretty good sum, get a good CPA, a good accountant, set up, talk to them, yeah, get an S corp, something like that. And you just kind of do it stone by stone. You don't go crazy with it, but you have it there for a rainy day, because they'll come. Rainy days will come.
Sure. No, absolutely. Uh, no, that's all good advice. So how do you typically handle your maintenance? Do you I think I was seeing that you do some of it yourself, but I mean, you doing most of it yourself, or
No, 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 I do some things. I do a lot of little things. I'm pretty decent at wiring electrical stuff. I can change out components externally. Now, if it gets into anything inside the transmission or inside the engine, I probably could. I'm fairly mechanical at figuring things out, but I'm also kind of cautious, because this is my money maker. So
yeah,
I would rather have that assurance that, if I go to a shop that's got some kind of warranty or something when they're doing the work, I can fall back on that. But I've swapped out the ECM on the driveway, fuel solenoids. I can do a little bit of AC work. I can change out alternators, change out belts, grease it. There's things that you can do to reduce costs. And honestly, just getting the time to do that. And sometimes that's kind of hard when you're out on the road. You come home, and the last thing you want to do is crawl under your truck the entire time you're at home. So family's wanting you there.
right.
So a lot of times that's what it boils down to, is how much it's time management. So if I don't have the time to do it when I go home, it's just sometimes it's easier to farm out that work. And it does cost you a little bit, but time is the one thing you can't buy back.
No, agreed, agreed. And if you're home, you got to spend it with the family. So at
Yep.
least as much of it as you can. So I can appreciate that. So kind of wrapping this up a little bit, you were at the Freightways F3. You've been at Matt's, I heard before. So do you typically do a lot of events like that, or a few a year, or is this something that's been kind of new to you, or
Yeah, I have no idea. I'll be honest with you. No, I've went to Matt's a few times. F3 was
okay,
a new thing, and yeah, I've been told that I should just go to more of these things and figure it out. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to more. Probably do a little bit more next year and just show up and
sure,
see what happens. I just love having conversations and learning. Honestly, I was thinking about going back to early this year. I was going to go to school online because I was just bored, right? I just wanted to learn more about, honestly, the logistics and transportation industry. And it's kind of nice falling into this FreightX community and the Discord communities, because there's a lot of information already out there, and we talk about. So I kind of feel like I'm getting somewhat of an education this year. And, things that I had an idea about why or how they should work. And, I'm kind of starting to see they do work that way. Everything should work that way. So, it's just an exciting time. I think a lot of good things are going to come out of building all these relationships. And, if not, and I'm just sitting here in this truck for the next 30 years, I'm pretty cool with that too.
Yeah, well, one thing you'll notice is a lot of people in this industry like to talk, and we certainly we value, a lot of us value everyone behind the chair or behind the wheel, and anyone that has great opinions there, and that we can get solid opinions from people on that are seeing things clearly, and we always value that. So um so I hope I see you. I'll be at Matt's. I'll be walking at Matt's, and at many other events throughout the year. So I certainly hope I see you coming up. I plan on reaching out to you on industry events and that are going on items related to drivers and over the road opinions and excuse me, over the road opinions and whatnot, and just getting your point of view on things. So you seem to have a significant tenure, and I value that, and I invite you to do the same. I've been around the transportation community for 28 years, so both on the driver's side, I've run fleets, and I've been deep in technology here for a long time. So if you have any questions and aren't sure on something or just want an opinion, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and I'll probably be reaching out to you too.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's all about, building connections and relationships. I close out with the saying I've been saying is freight friends are great friends. So, it's just make some friends, get out there and see what's out there. You just never know what kind of opportunities will pop up.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Chris. Safe driving. Enjoy Mankato, Minnesota. It's 40 some odd degrees out today, so you skirted the cold weather. And safe driving to you. But take
Thank you.
care.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right. And with that, that wraps up our show for today. So stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.